Good morning, everyone. My name is Adélaïde. I'm 24. I'm Belgian, not so far from home from my side. And I will share with you in two parts this morning my presentation. First, a bit where I come from, where my engagement came from, how it represents maybe a few stories of many Belgians here, of many Europeans, and maybe stories of your kids as well. And then in the second part, a bit the strategy that we have developed the past years and that we are developed for the future years to make sure that modern activism has a real impact in the crazy world that we live in today. To start, I want to ask you a question. How happy do you feel about how we are organizing the world right now in general? If you're super happy, raise your hand, be like, we're doing great, great. Amazing. If you're here, it's probably that somehow we all want to figure out how to create change around us, whether it's on an international level, national level, regional level, local level. There's changes that we want to be able to establish. And in order to create that change, the solution that we have as an individual is to engage ourselves, is to act. What I want you to remember from this presentation is first that caring for a world to change is not enough. Caring for what's going on in the world right now, it's not enough. What will be is acting together. So, what you can remember is acting not alone, but acting with the community. Joining others is the key to engagement. I want to talk to you about power of engagement today and how it changed my life and the one of many others. I started when I was at school, also like a bit randomly, to join the climate school strikes in Belgium. They were looking for French speakers to help the climate movement in Belgium, and I joined in thinking, sure, I'll help. Why not? I feel like maybe something is up with climate, but I didn't know a lot about it. And I was like, I can help for 1 week. But once you put a foot into it, into engagement, literally it means arriving one Thursday morning. I didn't take the bus to go to school. I took the train to go to Brussels from Namur, a town in Belgium. And I arrived in Brussels, and there were 35 other young kids who did that. And at that moment, the malaise, we say in French, this uncomfortable feeling that I had of not doing what I was supposed to, being at school right now, was completely gone. It felt like I was at the right place at the right moment. And most importantly, once you realize the impact that that has, it doesn't matter if it changed the biggest environmental policy on a European level, which it did, but the impact that it had on my life and the one around me was huge. And that empowering moment was enough for me to never let go of the power that we have as citizens. And concretely, that's for me activism. Being active, facing something that we want to see changing in society. It's not a scary word. It's just being active. And I think that's crucial. We are all somehow activists, and we must go find the activists inside us. For me, it started with school strikes, maybe for some of your kids too, maybe for you also. But then we went much beyond that. We worked, and we are still working with experts from all over Belgium and beyond to make sure that we have concrete propositions. Because yes, we mobilize in order to make noise, especially in moments right now when we are not talking about climate justice, environmental justice, social justice. So we make the noise. Once the noise is made, you must make proposals. So we work with experts to assure that we have strong recommendations, strong proposals, that we bring them directly, of course, to heads of states, which we've been doing for the past years, and we will keep doing. And then once we use a maximum of diversity in our way of acting, the importance in today's world also is creating a narrative. If you have a business, if you work wherever you're working, you probably have to constantly think, what's the story we're telling? This is also part of movements. How do we tell a story that is real, so about facts, and the facts are depressing, but at the same time that gathers people in order for them to want to join us, in order for them to still see the harsh reality, but have enough hope to act. And that constant balance is obviously a constant conversation, especially today. Facts are really hard to see constantly. So, how do we not deny, minimize, but at the same time that we bring people together? I've put this picture here, maybe it will show up, of a boat, because in 2019, when I started my activism, to start creating a narrative, I crossed the Atlantic by sailing boat, which was not a great idea for me because I'm super seasick. And we joined that boat with many climate changers from Europe with the idea to join the climate conference, the International Climate Conference, organized every year by the UN, so it's the COPs. And the idea was to go all the way to Chile without going on an airplane. Our narrative was not everybody take a sailing boat right now. No. Our narrative is we are going outside the expected box in order to drag your attention and bring back a crucial subject on the center of public and political attention. That's the goal of activists, I believe, at least the role we want to take, is throughout our narrative, being outside the box to always assure we're talking about social and climate justice. This is what we did. It did work. For the anecdote, we were crossing the Atlantic when we heard that the COP was cancelled and did end up being hosted in Madrid, which is 1 day train away from my house. But I was still on my way to South America, and we created coalitions in Brazil for more than a month with indigenous communities. And this year we're going back with sailing boat to COP30 in Belém in Brazil in order to strengthen these coalitions and to ensure that we continue this strong narrative. That's for the anecdote. We continued working here in Europe on creating these coalitions with young people, engaging, and most importantly, going where the young people are. So tours of festivals are crucial, talking on big stages, talking where you're not expecting us to talk. We need to think differently. We need to go where people don't expect us to be. That's how you bring back a subject at the center of attention. So we do that every year. Every year we spend our days and time bringing the subject back to the attention. And then I was thinking, okay, now I'm done with my studies. So personally, I was like, what am I going to do now? This was like a few months ago. And so we wanted to structure this. And here in Belgium, on my side, we created an organization called The Bridge. And this organization that we co-founded a few months ago has the goal to coordinate the movements across Europe to assure that they can continue and influence the European institutions. Now, why Europe? Because first, 80% of environmental policies are decided in European institution, the European level. It is a really important level, but it is a very hard one to understand and most importantly, to have access to. Activism is democracy. The idea of our work is to ensure citizens have more access to institutions, to policymakers, access to places where we make decisions for society. This is the idea of the bridge, making sure that young people who are engaged all across Europe can have access to policymakers, can have access to policy decision places. And our daily questions is to ask ourselves, how do we keep environment at the heart of the political agenda when it's not at all the case? I'm not teaching you anything, you know this. We are in a moment, not only in Europe, but also in Europe, where we are backtracking from most environmental policies. If you are a little EU nerd, you have seen that the future budget has also been lowered for the environmental and climate policies. So what we are seeing is not good. So how do we move forward on that? It doesn't matter. We have to figure it out. That's the thing. We have to figure out how, even now in the dark storm of backtracking of environmental policies, how are we going to mobilize? How are we going to make noise? But most importantly, we have to do it differently. In 2019, we came up in the streets with thousands of people, and that's how we had to mobilize then. But today we are in 2025, and that doesn't work as well. So we have to still mobilize, but differently. But we have to be there. And I think what's crucial to understand today in Europe, if you're European, is that the latest report on human rights of the Human Rights League showed that even in Europe, democracies are lowering their spaces for civic society. So today, being engaged as a citizen for climate justice, social justice, or other, it's not only a question of values, it's a question of keeping democracy alive in Europe. Your engagement in the next months, in the next years, will be the starting point as citizens to assure we keep civic space alive. And if you're afraid to mobilize yourself, that is a real danger for our democracies. And this is why we will continue to engage ourselves in the next months, in the next years, and that young people still do, with the mission of building a movement across Europe, this is what we're doing, of developing an impactful narrative and making effective means of actions accessible. We have to assure that across Europe, people have access to engage themselves, to action, and to impact the policies, the decisions. Now, I see that I talked way too long, and I wanted to give you clear examples of how we impacted policies and how we mobilized in order to impact that. But I will keep that for the conversation. But I'm very happy to be here today, and don't hesitate afterwards to come and talk to us in order to give concrete examples of how we have and we will continue to impact policies. Thank you very much.